And we've had testimony that you heard tonight from Mr. Pennell, not only that the impact that he foresees with this proposed use, not only is it consistent with what you would expect from a surface mining operation in Pennsylvania, but it's actually less, significantly less. So if you compare this proposal to greenfield development, where you had new infrastructure going in, new processing facilities, new roads, the impact from that site, everything else being the same, the impact from that would be greater than what we're proposing. I also said in the conditional use process, legislative process, you come up with certain conditions that you feel need to be satisfied, must be satisfied, as a condition proceeded to approval. We've put on testimony tonight that I believe satisfies all of those objective requirements as well as the subjective requirements. I'd like to turn it over to you, and I basically have two questions. The first is whether the supervisors are satisfied with the level of information provided in our application and the testimony we've heard tonight. And then the second is just general, is whether you have any questions for us related to the application or the testimony.
I'll let them speak for themselves. Bob, the question is posed, do you feel that they have made a prima facie case here to satisfy the conditions as you know them to be?
It appears that they have, with the application, that they have followed the ordinance quite well. I'm sure some of the supervisors might have a couple of points of clarification. One that I think of just as we were listening recently in your presentation, gentlemen. When DCNR does the harvesting, I'm assuming all that is going to happen on site also. They're not going to be harvesting and coming out onto any of the existing roads and so forth. They'll be all in site. Correct? Okay.
Doug, do you have any questions?
I have no questions right now.
The only question that I have right now is when we talk about the fauna and the historical study that's being done during the permit process, is that underway now?
Those studies are underway and are at different levels of completion, although, you know, as far as studies of flora and fauna, we're very close to having those completed, and those will be submitted and support the DEP permitting process. On the archaeological piece, a preliminary evaluation of the Federal Register didn't identify eligible sites within the property boundary, and we have done a site-specific investigation of the area that was reported to potentially be the location of the Pine Hill School, and it didn't. The findings of that were that the foundation that's present there is not a school, and that report will be finalized soon.
Well then, Mark, will those reports be available to us prior to your permitting or as part of your permitting application?
Yeah, it'll be concurrent. We'll be able to get you those as they're prepared to be submitted to DEP.
Okay.
None at this time.
No questions.
Well, I think Mr. Gordon has a couple follow-up.
Mark, I think your firm, as I recall, has been providing studies on a regular basis on Thomas Creek. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And we've been doing the stream monitoring that SGI agreed to with DCNR, and we also have been doing some of the preliminary investigations on the site, the geological investigations, wetland delineations, and those types of things.
apologize if I missed it in the application, but I understand that the plan is to continue some type of monitoring of Toms Creek.
Yeah, SGI will continue. Currently, we've performed what was agreed to, and that was an initial year of quarterly monitoring and then an annual monitoring event subsequent, and SGI will continue that monitoring.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, for how many years? Are you going to, is there a time frame that you're going to do the monitoring of the Toms Creek?
The commitment in the DCNR letter was 5 years total. I believe total is 5. I apologize.
5 years sets the baseline.
Yeah, so SGI will obviously continue through that period, and we'll have to there will be additional monitoring required on site as part of the DEP permit approval as well, both groundwater monitoring and surface water monitoring. So SGI will continue monitoring as long as the northern tract is active.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions based on that? Okay.
One final. As a housekeeping measure, one of the things that we were talking about were the best management practices and the details that were given. A supplemental sheet was submitted to the township. We originally filed the application. A lot of the explanation was in narrative format, talking about best management practices. We did get the comment letter from C.S. Davidson, and they asked that we provide some details. So that supplemental sheet was provided to the township. I just wanted to make sure that got included in Board Exhibit A as part of the application, and also point out the fact that conversation came up during the Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application during that meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, are there any adjoining property owners that adjoin the northern tract that wish to ask SGI any questions or present anything that they wish to present regarding this application? And I know there was a lady that has a letter from Dr. Paolini. Okay. That's fine. And we'll receive, this is a letter stating that he wasn't able to make tonight's meeting and he's asking for continuance, but we'll make it part of the record. I guess this will be board exhibit, whatever we're up to. Okay. I think there were some individuals that came up to me prior to the actual start of the hearing that wanted to recognize.
Yeah, my name is Brent Walls.
You have
Go
to come
here.
down
All righty.
and stay in. The court reporter needs to hear your name. Okay. Please give your name and address.
My name is Brent Walls. I'm Bunker Hill, West Virginia. I'm actually here representing several members in the area who are members of the Potomac Riverkeeper and several members downstream, and I'm requesting organizational standing because of that.
I don't think that's appropriate. That's my advice. I would not deny that. Is anyone else wants to request party standing? Yep. Sure.
Thank you. Board members obviously have no desire to limit anyone's right to free speech. Public comment, it is what it is. I embrace it always. However, the question of party standing and status, as having standing, I do need to object, and it really is a procedural matter as well as a sort of a substantive matter, and I need to preserve that right, so I'm going to object to his request for standing. Thank you.
Next. Name and address, please.
Thank you, Matt. My name is Lionel Whitcomb. I live at 2545 Mount Hope Road, and I would request to be a party to these proceedings based on the relevance, the distance from my home to the proposed mining site. It's exactly well, it's approximately 5,550 feet.
Let's see what Mr. Delaney has to say. Hold on.
Again, based on that proximity, I respectfully object to standing on that basis. And really the question is whether the gentleman's interests are different than that of the ordinary citizen, and every citizen that you've been elected to represent. Your duty is to protect those interests, and my position would be that his interests are adequately protected by the board, and that his proximity to the facility does not confer standing on him.
I'd have to agree with that analysis as well. Is there anyone else that wishes to approach? Question? Yeah.
Charles Mickley. I live at 2390 Mount Hope Road, approximately, about 100 feet more than Lionel Whitcomb. And I would ask to be a party to these proceedings also, based on my proximity and the visual effect that I can see directly over into your existing mine and have extreme audible circumstances at my property.
My objection on the same grounds.
And I would have to concur. Not having been said, is there anyone else that wishes to be recognized for party status? Name and address, please.
My name is Sue DeVere. I live at 700 Iron Springs Road, which is 2 miles downstream on Tom's Creek. The front of my property is 900 feet of Tom's Creek. I own both sides of the creek, so that I have to cross the creek on a little bridge to get to my house from the road. I'm extremely concerned about stormwater management. I'm also very concerned about the creek quality. I have beautiful trout pools in the water that it runs through my property. I brought pictures to share with the board if I am allowed to speak.
Mr. Delaney.
Sounds like a beautiful property. Is even further away, so I must object to her standing as well. But I want to reiterate what I said before, and that we are in no way trying to prevent anyone from making public comment and speaking during public comment. It's just a question of standing and party status.
No, again, I concur with that.
If I could, just one more question.
Well, wait a minute. We're going to get to public comment section, so you'll have a chance to address the board at that point.